little different Sunday school than normal. I'm going to move this cord so I don't fall on my face here this morning. But this morning, I've asked Frank to share his story. But before he comes to do that, I just wanted to share a couple of verses that I think set the stage for Frank to share his life, some of his life experiences. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 17 and 18 say, "For this light momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen," or the things in the future. "For the things that are seen are transcendent, but the things that are unseen are eternal." As Frank becomes part of our church family here, and he's now one of the superintendents of our church, and I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to get to know Frank a little bit better, and to have him share a little bit of his life. We only have a half an hour this morning, so if I stop talking and we get started, Frank, you can come up, and go ahead and come up, and we'll get started. A few weeks ago, Frank and I were talking. We talked a couple different times throughout the last year or whatever. And you can have a seat there, Frank. And he was telling me some of his experiences growing up as a child, and I said, "Wow, that's good. It's green. Yeah, you should be on. You on?
Am I on?
Yep, yeah. You are. Okay, look at that. We're on." So I said, "Wow, I think some of these stories are just so incredible. I think our church family would love to know about that." So I invited him to share. So we're going to take a little bit of time this morning, and we only have a half an hour, so we're going to probably talk about just a little snapshot of his childhood and his early life. So we decided that what we want you to know this morning is that no matter what you go through in the present, God's grace will lead you into a better future. And I think as Frank shares his story, you'll understand that. I want you to really think about how it feels to be a child that grows up with the experiences that he's had, and think about how God might be calling you to do something today, like tomorrow or this week or in the future about it. So Frank, with all that, let's just go ahead and tell us your first and last name, and tell us a little about what you do for a living right now. And yeah, no. You want to give us your phone number?
5551. My name is Frank Colazzo. Currently, I own a business named Flawless Construction. So, mainly flip properties for Emmanuel, slave ship. But yeah, that's what we do. We flip houses for Manny, and on the side, we try to do work for other customers. That's how it started. It started work for other customers, and then Manny said, "I need you to fix a toilet." And I said, "I guess." And then it's all Manny now.
Yep. So you work for Manny. So that explains how you wound up here at church. Whoever Manny comes in contact with, he usually brings them in here on Sunday mornings one way or another. Tell us about when you came to church for the first time. What did it feel like coming here to Shiloh, and what was that experience like? We want to know how welcoming we are, and tell us how good we are, right?
Yeah, so it wasn't hard, because when I was 15, I ended up going to a Mennonite church in Mannheim, Grace Community Fellowship. So I've been to Catholic, I've been to Pentecostal, I've been to a few different types of churches, and this has always been the most welcoming church. I always tell my wife, our church is better than yours. Because here it's a family, and at the bigger churches, it's you can go there for 2 years and nobody will ever know your name. So since the first day, it's always been welcoming, and it's always been family.
Yeah, and I think you said it reminded you a lot of the church you grew up
going to. Yeah, because even to this day, you could bring up my name at Grace Community Fellowship, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's just Alfred's son."
Yeah.
So
that's pretty neat. Just one tiny example right there of how God weaves the past and brings us into the future. It's just a demonstration of His grace. So you mentioned that you lived at the Stauffers, and you were there at age 15 as a foster child. So tell us a little bit about, so how did you become a foster child, and tell us, like maybe what you remember your early childhood and how you got to be in foster care.
All right. Yeah, so I was about 9. I grew up in Reading, and we had no leadership. Like, I never met my father. My mom was like into drugs and stuff like that. So at the age of 9, she ended up getting arrested, and my uncle, which at the time was a Secret Service agent, he knew that she was in jail, so he took us. And unfortunately, he was mainly overseas in Europe, so the only option was foster care. So then me, my brother, and my 2 sisters all went to foster care at the age of 9. Yeah.
Man, it gets me choked up when I hear that, because what you're going to hear next is just pretty unbelievable. I grew up in a foster home too, as many of you know, but I was one of the permanent kids. And as long as I can remember growing up at home, we always had kids staying with us that were foster kids. And so I was very familiar with that. And then I realized that, like from the age of 9, Frank spent most of his life growing up in foster homes. So tell us a little bit about the foster homes you've been in, and like how many different ones, and like the fact that he's sitting here having this conversation with us this morning is just nothing but the grace of God. This guy has lived in 10 different homes in 6 years between the ages of 9 and 15. Like, I don't know what that does to you, but I don't know how anybody comes out straight at the end of that. But here Frank sits with us this morning. So tell us a little bit about that journey, that experience. Where were you, and what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, it was hard at 9 because we had like I said, no leadership, there was nothing straight for us. So when we went, my 2 sisters got lucky, and they went with their dads. So it was just me and my brother. But we were savages. Like, there was nothing that we wouldn't do. We were stealing. We were doing everything possible. So it was hard at first. Like, foster homes aren't always what people think they are, and we got into some bad foster homes where, like, we were definitely not the main kid. You know what I mean? So we've had foster homes where my brother got blamed for something. I took the blame for him. I had to sleep in the basement.
Tell us that story, Frank.
And then,
so you're sleeping in the basement.
Yeah, so I'm sleeping in the basement, and when you think of a basement, it's not like the flips that Manny buys. It's like a nice basement. But so they threw my mattress down there, and there was like a double door
to the outside, right?
To the outside yard. Door, yeah. And like in between the yards, there was a little shed before the creek. And they always told us that there was a troll there. And at the age of 9, there's a troll there. You know what I mean? So then when that happened, they were like, oh, well, are you willing to take the blame? And I'm like, yeah. I was like, I know my brother's not going to pee on somebody. That's what they said he did. So they put me in the basement, and I'm crying. And they had their son go outside and like jump in the glass to scare me. But I ran upstairs so fast, I think I hit 3 steps. Like, and they tried to say it wasn't him, but he comes back in with a coat on, because it was the cold temperatures. So we ended up running away from there at the age of 9. And they found us, and they sent us to another foster home. But again, there, it was the same thing. Like, we used to be, like, I guess back then you used to be able to get restrained. And whenever we did anything wrong, we were always getting restrained. Like, slammed on the floor, held down. And when you don't have structure in your life, that's like, that's like getting beat, So eventually we ended up getting split up. My brother went to a good foster home in Allentown, where he ended up staying from, I would say, about the age of 10 till he graduated, actually. And then me, I bounced around from, I was at the Children's Home of Reading. I was at Bethany Children's Home. I was at a detention center in Bethlehem. And then I spent most of my years at St. Michael's Juvenile Home Residential Treatment Center, where I spent, I think, from like the age, I think it was like 11 to, see, there was time in between there where I was away, but I spent like 2 years there at St. Michael's School for Boys. And then from there, I was able to go home with my mom in Philadelphia when she was doing better. And then in that time, my father died. And then that's when I reconnected with the family from Delaware. And I actually lived with my grandmom for a little bit, for a couple months. Everything was going good. I came home to Philly to visit. And that Monday, I went back to foster care, which wasn't actually not foster care. I went back to St. Michael's School for Boys. And there it was, again, it was not what, everybody thinks that the kids are getting treatment and everything's good, and it wasn't. Like, I remember one situation where, we were kids, and
So you're like, what,
I was
10,
like,
11?
I don't know, at that time I was probably in between 13 and 15.
Okay.
And it was bedtime, and we were like, no, it's not bedtime. We were like laughing and joking. Well, one of the staff, at that time I was really little. I don't know, when I turned 15 is when I was like, but I was really little, and there was a staff member that was like, probably like about my size now, and he restrained me. And I've been through so much where the restraining was like nothing to me at that point, and he didn't like that. So like, he restrained me so bad that my face was like annihilated. Like where I was standing in class waiting and somebody walked past me and they were like, what happened to you? I said, I got restrained. And they wanted me to press charges on the staff member. And I don't know why I didn't, because, press charges. But I told him, I said, no, I guess it was more like I forgive him. You know what I mean? And I never pressed the charges, and I stayed in that St. Michael's School for Boys till I was 15.
Yeah, so what?
Yeah.
So did he like slap you on the face, or?
No, like he would have my arms behind my back, and he would just like slam my face on the carpet and like rub it on the carpet. I had like rug burns all over my face, and like it was bad enough where one of the higher ups, because every time we went to class, we had to stand in lines. So when he walked by, he was like, what happened to you? And they got on it right away. I had a lawyer there, caseworker, and they wanted me to press charges. And I just like, no, because at the end of the day, I'm still gonna be here. You know what I mean? Like, they're not gonna be like, oh, well, you press charges here, you can go home. I was gonna still be there, and I was gonna have to deal with all the other staff.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I guess I just forgave them, and we actually ended up being friends there,
Okay. Wow.
So it wasn't like I held him up to it.
Yeah. Wow.
I
So you
guess-
just extended grace to him at that
Yeah.
point. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So you lived there for a few years. So how did you? So we were at St. Michael's School for Boys, and how did you wind up going to Mannheim after that? Was after that, right? That you wound
Yeah,
up in Mannheim.
so
you went from this. You were at this school for what, like a year or two, maybe, or?
Yeah, it would have been between 13 and 15.
Okay.
So like the 2 years.
Yeah. So you were there 2 years at the treatment center. Got a lot of mistreatment, and
Yeah, right.
and then somehow you wind up in Mannheim.
Yeah.
So tell us how that came about.
So it ended up where I guess the way they do it is, as long as you're doing good, they'll offer you foster homes. So
You
it's
mean
like,
at the-
whoa, it's like a foster home, great,
So you mean
But-
like if you're doing good at St. Michael's?
At the St. Michael's, yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Because, I was still bad between 13 and 15. I actually ran away from that place in the dead of winter. I was so little where, I don't know if anybody knows, like, the detention centers or hospitals and stuff like that, you're only allowed to open the window like that much, and it like locks. I fit through there. Me and like 5 other kids. And it was in Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania, so it was up. Oh, wow. And it was freezing. We had no shoes. We had no nothing. We just had like whatever clothes we went to bed with. And we were out there. I'm surprised we didn't die. Like we tried to sleep like under a tree, and it was so cold. We just kept moving. And long story short, they caught us because it was 9, 10, 11-year-olds running the streets of Scranton. We made it all the way to Scranton.
Wow.
So we went back. They treated us like runaways. No shoes, no nothing. We had to stay in a little room all day till class was over, and then we went back to our dorms.
And what did they?
So then I started doing good after that. That was like my turning point. So then I started doing good, and then they put us in what they have is like little group homes, mini group homes outside of the area. It was still connected to the St. Michael's, but it was like you were living in a little house. So I started doing good there, and they were like, I think you're ready for foster care. So I'm like, okay. So they sent me to a foster home in Mannheim with the Staufers. And I went, and to me it was like I'm from the city, and their house is across from the farm. So I was like, I don't know. So then I went back, and they were like, well, would you like to visit again? I was like, well, can you give me another one? I guess I had options, right? So I'm like, I was hoping like I'd be in the hood somewhere, right? So then they were like, oh, well, we don't have anybody for this week, but we'll look for somebody else. So I'm like, all right. So then the week passed, and the next week they were like, well, we still can't find anybody, but the Staufers would like to know if you want to come back for another weekend and see how it goes. So I'm like, all right. So then I went, and then we ended up going to the beach. And that was the first time that I've ever been to the beach. So then from there, I was like, you know what? This place is all right. And then from there, I stayed.
Yeah. So you were 15 at this point.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you stayed at the Staufers, you went to the Mennonite church. What else did they plug you into or connect you with that you feel was a turning point for your life? So you felt, I think you shared with me before that when you went to that home, you felt like they really cared about you. Mm-hmm. First of all, I guess tell us what they did that really demonstrated that you cared. I think that was pretty special.
Yeah, like obviously I was still broken, right? And no matter what I did there, it didn't matter. I could steal money. I can do like I've done things as bad as steal my brother's car during school time. One time, like I don't know how I orchestrated this thing, but I got his keys from the gym teacher, stole his car, was riding around it. I let my buddy drive it, and he took the clutch out. So then I call my dad and be like, Dad, Anthony's car is broken. So like, even through that, they never reported me to the agency. Like they always took care of everything in-house, like if I was their son. You know what I mean? Like the only time they reported to the agency was whenever, I needed medical, insurance or anything like that. But other than that, I wasn't a foster kid to them. You know what I mean? Like they talked about adoption and stuff like that, but I always felt like I didn't really need it. You know what I mean? I could feel at home and feel like family without being adopted. So yeah, that's what made that home. Like they never betrayed me. They never like all the other foster parents, as soon as I did something, it was, this guy's acting up. You know what I mean? Like, and they never did that. They always treated me like I was their son.
I think that was a huge demonstration of love and grace. Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. What a testimony to the Stauffer family. And then you went to school. You began to go to high school there, right? Mm-hmm. And did you graduate high school there?
Yes.
And what did you do during school? You did some sports.
Yeah, I played football for Mayhem Central. I played basketball, track, and wrestling. Mm-hmm.
And how did being involved in the sports programs of the school help to ground your life? Was that? Would you say that was a helpful thing for you?
Yeah, because in Mannheim, anybody that knows Mannheim football, they don't play.
Yeah,
like
Mannheim football. In case anybody doesn't know, like that's like living in Philadelphia and being being an Eagles fan, you know.
Yeah,
Like Manheim Central is a big football town.
Yeah, like I played 3 years and I got 3 district titles, and I was in states twice in football.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
but it was one of those things where if you weren't good at school, if you weren't good at home, basically, you weren't playing. So I wanted to play, you know, because until I played my sophomore year, I've never played sports in my life. Like I didn't know what RB meant, what QB meant, WR. I'm like, what is a running back? Like I didn't know what those positions even meant. I would watch it on TV, but it was like in between like what we were doing at the St. Michael School for Boys. So it gave me something to work towards to play football. Like I loved playing football. School was like, because even school here, like I never had any structure. So I went to school, but it was like I wasn't looking to go to college because nobody in my family went to college. So I was just going to school. But at Manheim, it gave me something to strive towards. Like I ended up starting playing football. I ended up starting playing basketball. I quit basketball, went to wrestling in my junior year, started my senior year. So from there, I ended up graduating, and I played like 10 years of semi-pro ball. So yeah, Manheim definitely was, because I think if I would have went to the city, I don't know where I'd be right now, actually. Yeah. So it was definitely worth it.
Huge opportunity. I think that's really neat to know how in an environment, you know, whether it's an urban environment or a rural environment, when kids who are troubled get a motivation for something outside of their struggles, just like you have with sports. Sports gives that opportunity, and that's just really neat how God used that as a tool.
Yeah, because there's a lot of great athletes in Reading, but as soon as they leave the school, they got to deal with the world. You know what I mean? So that's why I said God putting me in Manheim allowed me to grow. You know what I mean? Because if I had been in the city, yeah, I was doing better, but all it takes is that one boom, and you're back to being a street guy. You know what I mean? So I think that's what helped.
I really think it's so neat how you realized that you wanted to play the sport, and so now all of a sudden you had a motivation to do your schoolwork, you had a motivation to listen to your parents, you had a motivation to do all the positive things, because there was a motivation much deeper, and that was to play the sport, right? So that's good. That's a good start, and as you grow, it kind of sets us on a really good path. I just wonder, after all that you've experienced as a child, how do you deal with all that history and all that rejection you must have experienced? Was living with the Staufers and experiencing love there, did that help to steer you, or it seemed like you were pretty forgiving especially with the staff that, you know, gave you the face burns and everything? So how were you able to forgive all these people and all that? How did that go for you?
I don't know. I guess God gave me a heart, and I've always just been like forgiving, I guess. Okay. Even in work now, you know, like we hire some contractors and be like, what? And I still use them. You know what I mean? Like, so it was hard. You know, like going through all that and things, like with my mom, never meeting my dad.
Like you could have a real reason for bitterness and anger today.
All I can say is God, I guess. You know, like what else would calm me down? And because I mean, I do have a temper, but in my journey, it's been like dying down. You know, like I think about what I do before I do it and stuff like that. So it's been, and it's still working. Like he's like that song earlier. He's still working on me. You know what I mean? He's still got a lot to do. Hopefully, it makes me a little taller, but we'll talk about that.
I think that's good.
But yeah, I don't know how I did it, but I did it. Like I've been through a lot, and
here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how many of you know or knew this, but when Frank was baptized, whatever it was, a couple of months ago, at that baptism, his biological mother was there, and his foster parents, the Stauffers, were there as well. That was, I get choked up talking about it. That was such an awesome illustration of God's hand of grace. And I just wondered, how did you feel to see your mother and your foster parents? Did you ever see them together like that before? Do you have any emotions from the past that kind of come up when you?
Yeah, I don't think they ever were, because my mom was always just like, she was just in and out of jail, in and out, in and out, in and out. Mm-hmm. And she just recently got out, I would say a year ago, again. Wow. So she's actually doing better now. Like, she's really, like, actually on September 4th, I believe she graduates from a program that she would like me to go to. But yeah, she said she wishes her mom could see how she is now.
Wow.
Because she actually missed her mom's funeral because she was in jail. She was out for her dad's funeral, but never felt like she should be there because she never forgave him.
Oh, wow.
I guess, I don't know. I don't know what he did to her when she was little and stuff like that, because, like, my mom's story is worse than mine.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like, she was adopted, I believe, by it's confusing, by my who I call my grandmom, by her. My grandmom's brother is her dad.
Wow. Okay.
And then so my grandmom adopted her because I guess he couldn't take care of her. Mm-hmm. So my mom's side of the family is Italian. So I met my grandmom one time. She actually lived on Locust, I believe. And I met her like one time.
Wow.
So for her to be doing better now is like a blessing.
Yeah, sure.
Like
it's huge. Yeah, and your journey could be one of the reasons why she's doing better. It's just, to me, when you think about families who have such a broken history, and then you see a guy like Frank bringing his children to church every Sunday because God's got a hold of his heart and he's changing him. I don't know what else you need to prove that there's a God that cares and loves us. And I'd just like to end this time with, is there anything else you'd like to say, Frank? How you feel about, raising your young girls? And I think Jada just got saved this past summer at camp, and you begin to, lead her in the ways of God as a godly dad and a godly father. How do you feel about that, and how do you see that?
I mean, my goal was to never let my kids experience what I did. So, like, that's the motivation you need. If that doesn't motivate you, like, I don't know what could. Like, yeah, some people like Jada, they like to ask for way more than what they deserve. But like I always said, I will never let my kids experience that. So if it involves me changing, because I would have had to change first. You know what I mean? I can't be like that bad dad. And I was. If you ask I have 8 kids. I don't look like it, right?
That's another subject. I told Frank we gotta have part 2 because we can only start with his childhood. So
for the first, I would say 4. For the first 4 kids, they could truly say I was never there. Like, I was about the streets. I was about the world, Mm-hmm. And then it took the little girls to like start to slowly break me down. And I'm like, this is not the life I need to live. And then Manny came into the picture, and he took me in, said, come to my church. He never let me just, come to Bible study. come to Bible study. And then I come, and then it was just like, I kept coming, and now I keep coming to church, and like all the people that were in my life before this was like, they just slowly dwindled away. Because sometimes it's hard when you have like some people, I know some people that are in this walk, but they don't want to get rid of the people in the past. And it's hard. But God never left anybody in my life long enough for me to feel like I'm losing anybody. You know what I mean? So like if one of my friends is like, oh man, let's go to the club, I never had that. You know what I mean? So it was easier for me to transition to this. I mean, I'm not perfect, but to be what God wants me to be for my family and for my church. Without him, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, I probably wouldn't be here today. Like, there's times where, at any situation, driving, where you're like, oh my God, I should have died today, and he always, I forget, somebody had told me before, he has a plan for you. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, you had this many accidents and this and this and that, and you always made it through. So that's my motivation too, is no matter what you go through in life, like, there's always a better. Like, in the last couple weeks, I've been preaching to my brother, trying to get him to come to the Lord. Obviously he experienced it with being sent to jail wrongfully. I got him out, and then he started talking about Jesus this, Jesus that. Like, just the other day, he sent me a clip of something that had to do with Jesus. Now, is he fully in? No, he's an alcoholic. So my goal is to, at some point, get him to come to this church. Like, I know he comes from Lancaster, but so do some of these other people. Some of you guys come from that far too.
A lot of them. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
People coming here from Mannheim. You know that?
No.
Yeah. Okay. I have to introduce you to them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's my goal, to be a disciple for the Lord, whether it be with my own family. My brother's the closest. My sister, actually, I have a sister that she was at the baptism also. Trying to get them all in. Like, this is where it's at.
Yeah. And your wife is getting baptized today.
Yeah.
At
Spring Valley.
Spring Valley Bible Church.
Yep.
So she was here earlier. She was hoping that we get this in before she had to leave, but she had to leave for her own baptism. So I think you might have a little to do with that fact that she's getting baptized.
I mean, I want to say yeah, but I think the Lord grabbed her by himself.
Yeah. And
led her to do her own thing. Mm-hmm. And she has been really, like, there's times where I'll go over there and we'll be hanging out, and then she starts talking about her church that day, and I start talking about my church that day. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like a lot of times both churches are talking about the same thing. Mm-hmm. Which I always tell Manny that. I'm like, bro, we were at Bible study, talked about this, church, they talked about that, and then now that we're talking about, like, everybody's talking about the same thing, it's like God planned it. Yeah. Like, everybody talk about it at the same time. So
and you and your wife are separated right now.
Yeah.
So you
you
share the kids back and forth on weekends or whatever. Yeah. Well, I just like to wrap it up with this verse that I started with. 2 Corinthians 4:17 says, "For this light momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all comparison, as we look not to the things that are seen, but to the things that are unseen. For the things that are seen are temporal, or transient, but the things that are unseen are eternal." So when we don't see what God's doing and we're experiencing whatever we're experiencing that may be negative or we don't like, when we put our faith and trust in God, He has something much greater in the future. So thank you, Frank, for sharing this part of your story, and we'll have to get you back again to do part two. We might have to do 3 and 4 too.
But 3 and 4 will be like the blessed portion of it.
Okay, all right, that's good. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Frank. Yep. I appreciate you coming and sharing your story. God bless you, brother. Yep.